So we have Maria Juliana Cortez doing her presentation on Michelangelo using an iPad and AirPlay technology through Apple Television. And a 5, 4, 3, 2.
So good morning. I'm going to talk about Michelangelo. He was one of the great artists of the Renaissance, and he's known as the master of the Renaissance because he was a great influence. He was born in Capri, Italy, a city that later on took his name in 1475, and his family was part of a nobility, but by the time he was born, the family had already lost the power. He moved to Florence when he was a baby with his family because his father took the position of mayor, and he worked there. And then when he was 13, after many years of trying to convince his father, he became an apprentice to Domenico Ghirlandaio. And he worked there and learned a lot of things for a year, but then after a year he had nothing else to learn. So he moved on, and Lorenzo de' Medici took him to his palace, and he lived there with Lorenzo until he died. In Lorenzo de' Medici's palace, he learned how to do sculpture with one important artist of the Renaissance also. It was called Bertolo di Giovanni. He sculpted in bronze, and that's how Michelangelo learned how to do sculpture. He used this technique that at first his first sculpture and his first paintings were like carvings in marble, but they weren't like all out. They were like stuck to something else at the wall. Michelangelo admired a lot the human body, and he had very much detail in his work. There was this theory that said that Michelangelo was homosexual because he wrote love letters to Tommaso, that was his best friend, but he was in love with him. And it said that his admiration for the human body, especially the man's body, was because his love for Tommaso. And Michelangelo lived in a lot of places as his fame grew, and he moved from Italy, Florence, Italy, to Venice, and then back to Rome and all around these places. And he worked in different artworks, but some of the most important are the David, the Pieta, and the Sistine Chapel. The David is a statue of a man that measures 14.2 feet, and it is like the human body with a lot of detail, and it was like his first work of the human body, like nude. Well, one of his, like the most important one. Then the Pieta is the statue of the Virgin Mary with Jesus on her hands after the crucifixion, and this was the first marble sculpture that he made. And then in the Sistine Chapel, he painted the ceiling with frescoes, and the most known artwork at the Sistine Chapel is Adam and God, and it's where God is giving life to Adam. It is said that one of the most important things about Michelangelo was that at the beginning of his artwork, he made people really muscular and energetic, but at the end of his life, his last artworks were bodies that were like tired. So it's the interpretation of his life. At the beginning, he was strong, but then he was coming down. Michelangelo died in 1564 because of a disease, but he continued working in a lot of projects until his last days. He was a man of a great influence because a lot of his works and the detail he put in the human body reflected in later works of this author. Thank you.
Very good. Very strong.